Welcome to the channel Cataclysms of the Planet Today. Here we talk about the most powerful natural phenomena and man-made disasters that shake the world. Earthquakes, hurricanes, tsunamis, fires. We collect the most relevant data from open sources so that you are aware of events. Subscribe to the channel so as not to miss important updates. Be the first to know about global cataclysms and their consequences. We monitor the situation, analyze the facts, and share the latest information. Like and write in the comments what you think about what is happening in the world. Your opinion matters. Hold on tight, viewers. We are heading into the epicenter of the water element. The Tebrau district of Johor Bahru, Malaysia, was hit by relentless rainfall. The sky opened up and torrents of water gushed with such force that streets turned into seething rivers and houses, into islands in the middle of the chaos. The water rose to the roofs, washing away everything in its path. Cars floated like toy boats, and furniture floated out of windows. By the morning of March 20th, rescuers in boats and helicopters pulled 784 people out of this nightmare, placing them in 43 temporary shelters. The authorities mobilized hundreds of volunteers, distributing hot tea, blankets, and food. But nature does not retreat. Forecasters promise rain until March 21st. Roads are blocked, schools and shops are closed, sirens are wailing, and residents are filming this apocalypse on video, begging for salvation. Tebrau is drowning, but the people's spirit is not broken. The whole world is watching their fight. Hawaii is burning brighter than the sun. Today, the Kilauea volcano turned night into day with its fiery show. The 14th episode of the eruption began in the Halemaumau crater. Lava fountains rage, rising 700 feet like fiery geysers. Red-hot streams flow down the slopes, illuminating the sky with a crimson glow, and the smell of sulfur hangs in the air. In the morning, the northern vent died down, but the southern one continues to erupt, causing the earth to tremble. Scientists from the U.S. Geological Survey raised the alert level to watch, and authorities cordoned off the volcano's national park, posting patrols and prohibiting tourists from approaching this fiery monster. Rescuers are on standby with helicopters and drones, monitoring every movement of the lava. But for now, residential areas are safe. This is not just an eruption, it is a breathtaking dance of the elements. Saudi Arabia is drowning in an unexpected disaster. Khamis Mushait, a city in the land of sand, was in the grip of rainfalls the likes of which have not been seen here for decades. Water gushed from the mountains, turning streets into seething canals waist-deep and houses into fortresses under siege. Cars were swept away by the streams, palm trees bent by the force of the wind, and residents filmed in horror as their world dissolved into water. Rescuers rushed into action in the morning. Boats, trucks, and even camels were used to pull people out of the flooded areas. Authorities have declared a state of emergency, closing roads and schools, and police are shouting "Stay home" with loudspeakers. Volunteers are handing out water, bread, and blankets, but the forecast is grim. More rain is coming. Khamis Mushait is battling the elements, and it's not for the faint of heart. A sand apocalypse has taken over Artesia. New Mexico is plunged into an orange haze as a powerful sandstorm hits, with winds that tear down power lines and drive clouds of dust. Visibility drops to zero, roads become traps, and the air turns into a mixture of sand and terror. Residents barricade themselves in their homes, while rescuers in masks and with flashlights pull drivers out of stuck cars. Authorities declared a state of emergency, closing highways and schools, and police patrolled the streets with sirens, urging, "Don't go out!" Texas echo winds brought this chaos and Artesia became its victim. The storm died down, but the sand still flies. This is nature in its wild dance. Indonesia in the ash darkness. Dukono volcano came to life again in March 2025, throwing columns of ash 1.2 kilometers above the crater. The roar of explosions shakes the earth, smoke obscures the sun, and ash settles on villages like ominous snow. This fiery giant has not slept since 1933, and now it is on fire. Authorities raised the alert to level 2, prohibiting approaching the crater within 4 kilometers. Rescuers evacuate residents, handing out masks and water, and police with drones monitor the ash clouds. Aircraft are on standby, fields are covered in a gray film, but Indonesia has become accustomed to living with this giant. It's a volcanic saga that will give you goosebumps. Lewotobi volcano on Flores Island, Indonesia exploded like a bomb. Ash flew 10 miles into the air, blackening the sky and paralyzing flights for hundreds of miles. The earth shook from a magnitude 3.3 tremor, and hot rocks rained down from the sky. Authorities raised the alarm to level 3, and thousands of people fled the death zone. Rescuers in trucks and boats evacuate families, handing out blankets, food, and masks, and the army cordoned off roads to prevent anyone from returning to hell. Airports are closed, ash chokes the air, but Lewotobi continues its furious roar. It's a war with a volcano, and every minute counts. Incredible accumulation of snow on Sakhalin Island, Russia. Sakhalin, Russia, under snow siege. In 12 hours, up to 30 centimeters of snow fell, and in Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk and Dolinsk, snowdrifts grew to a meter and more. Cars drowned in white waves, roads disappeared, and houses turned into ice fortresses. The wind howled, knocking people off their feet, and residents filmed this winter attack as if scenes from a science fiction film. Rescuers on snowmobiles and tractors are clearing paths, pulling out those stuck, and the authorities threw all their equipment into the battle, from bulldozers to heat guns. Electricity was restored in 300 houses. Heating points are open, but the snow falls without stopping. Sakhalin is an ice epic, where people resist the elements. Brazil under attack by the elements. Brusque in Santa Catarina state was hit by gusts of up to 10 miles per hour, accompanied by heavy rain. Trees cracked like matchsticks, roofs shook, and streets turned into slippery rivers. Residents took shelter at home, watching as the wind carried away everything that was lying around. Rescuers with saws removed fallen trunks, helping stranded drivers, and authorities closed schools, offices, and roads, calling, "Watch out!" Electricians climbed poles, fixing torn wires, and police patrolled to prevent chaos from taking over. Brusque is holding up, but nature is testing its strength. Severodvinsk, Russia, in an icy hell. The Yagrinsky Bridge became the scene of a nightmare. A snowstorm with winds up to 63 miles per hour reduced visibility to zero, and more than 50 cars crashed into each other. Metal screeched, glass shattered, and people screamed in the white darkness. Rescuers and medics rushed into action, pulling the wounded from crumpled cars, while cranes removed the wreckage. Authorities closed the bridge, deploying warming stations with hot tea and blankets, and police with sirens maintained order. This is not just an accident. It's a winter thriller where every second counts. Mexico in a sandstorm. Ciudad Juárez is engulfed in a storm worthy of horror films. The wind drove orange clouds of dust, hiding the sun and turning the streets into a desert with no horizon. Cars stopped, people coughed in masks, and the air became a wall of sand. Rescuers in protective suits scoured the highways, pulling out drivers, and authorities closed schools, stores, and roads, shouting through megaphones, "Stay inside!" Police handed out water and masks, but the storm left the city captive. This is a sandstorm that will freeze your blood. Ecuador in black panic. In Esmeraldas province, the Petro-Ecuador oil pipeline burst, turning the rivers black. Oil flooded the tributaries, killing fish, poisoning the water, and threatening 500,000 people. The air is filled with a pungent smell, and the banks are glistening with resin. The authorities have declared an environmental emergency, sending hundreds of workers with pumps and barriers to clean up. Rescuers are delivering food, water, and medicine by helicopter, and the army is guarding the area from looters. Environmentalists are shouting about the catastrophe of the century, but the fight is in full swing. This is an oil nightmare, where every drop is a tragedy. Japan in a snowstorm. In March 2025, 30 centimeters of March snow fell in 12 hours, covering cities in a white blanket. Trains stopped, cars skidded, and roofs cracked under the weight of snowdrifts. Children made snowmen, but adults with shovels panicked. The roads were like skating rinks. Rescuers with tractors cleared the tracks, authorities opened hundreds of shelters with heating, and electricians repaired lines torn by the wind. Police patrolled, helping the elderly, and forecasters whispered, "This is not the end." Japan in a winter fairy tale, but with a harsh plot. Moscow in a fiery nightmare. The capital of Russia shuddered from the tragedy. A fire broke out in a hostel on a Murskaya street in the Golyanovo district, in the east of the city, turning an ordinary morning into a scene from a horror movie. A two-story building surrounded by garages and auto repair shops became the epicenter of the disaster. Flames rushed with lightning speed to the second floor, where mattresses, furniture, and personal belongings of the guests caught fire. Black smoke covered the sky, the smell of burning penetrated every corner, and cries for help were heard from the windows blocked by bars. This is not just a fire, this is a fight for life, where every second was worth its weight in gold. It all began around midnight on March 19th to 20th. Eyewitnesses say, first there was acrid smoke, then a crackling sound, and now the fire has engulfed 20 square meters, devouring everything in its path. Panic began inside the hostel, where dozens of people, workers, students, visitors, lived for 400 to 450 rubles a day. 6 people were trapped. Narrow corridors clogged with things, and bars on the windows made them prisoners of fire. One man died from smoke inhalation, another suffered burns and carbon monoxide poisoning. He was handed over to doctors who are fighting for his life right now. Emergencies Ministry rescuers rushed to the scene like action movie heroes. Firefighters with breathing apparatus fought their way through a wall of smoke, knocking down the flames with water from hoses, and using rescue devices, ropes and ladders, they pulled 5 people out of the burning hell. Sirens howled, ambulances lined up, and a drone circled above the street, recording the scale of the tragedy. By 2 a.m., the fire was localized, but the building had turned into a charred skeleton. The walls are black, the windows are broken, things are scattered as if after an explosion. Moscow is mourning. At the site of the tragedy, there are flowers and candles from neighbors, and in hospitals there is a fight for survivors. The damage is being counted. But one thing is clear. Dozens of people have lost everything, from documents to their last hope. This is not just a fire, it is an SOS signal about how fragile security is in the metropolis. The United States is on the brink of a scientific shock. In February 2025, scientists from the University of New Mexico, led by toxicologist Matthew Campen, revealed the terrifying truth. Microplastics have flooded the human brain, and their amount is growing at an alarming rate. A study published in the journal Nature Medicine showed that over the past 8 years, from 2016 to 2024, the concentration of microplastics in the brain has increased by 50%. These are not just numbers. This is about 7 grams of plastic in the average brain, which is equal to a plastic spoon. Imagine, your brain, the center of thoughts and feelings, is now partially made of plastic shards. And this is not fantasy, but a reality confirmed by science. Researchers studied 52 brain, liver, and kidney samples from deceased people in Albuquerque, New Mexico, comparing tissue from 2016 and 2024. They used cutting-edge techniques, pyrolysis gas chromatography, and mass spectrometry to catch the smallest particles, and electron microscopy showed their shape, razor-sharp nanofragments less than 200 nanometers long. The most common plastic? Polyethylene, the kind found in bags and bottles, which made up 75% of the finds. But that's not all. They also found polypropylene and even styrene butadiene rubber, tire and packaging residues that had penetrated the most intimate part of the body. And now the most alarming part. 12 brain samples from people with dementia, including Alzheimer's, contained 5 to 10 times more plastic than healthy tissue. This doesn't prove that microplastics cause dementia. The blood-brain barrier is weaker in patients, and the particles could have simply accumulated. But scientists are sounding the alarm. What if this is not an accident? At the University of Rhode Island, neuroscientist Jamie Ross conducted an experiment with mice in 2023. After just 3 weeks of drinking water with microplastics, the animals began to experience cognitive decline similar to the early signs of Alzheimer's. The particles penetrated the blood-brain barrier, causing inflammation and a decrease in the GFAP protein, which is associated with neurodegeneration. A study in New Mexico found that the brain accumulates 7 to 30 times more plastic than the liver or kidneys, possibly due to high blood flow in fatty tissue that attracts lipophilic particles. In China, in 2024, scientists from Peking University noticed that microplastics blocked blood vessels in the brain of mice, causing neurological damage. In the US, experiments with cells showed that nanoplastic provokes oxidative stress, inflammation, and neuronal death. And in Japan, at Hokkaido University, they linked it to hormonal imbalances. Imagine how plastic interferes with your emotions! What are the authorities doing? So far, almost nothing. Environmentalists are shouting, ban single-use plastic, clean the air and water. In the US, the Environmental Protection Agency is studying the issue, but there are no specific measures. After the study, New Mexico authorities called for urgent action, and rescuers? They are powerless. Plastic is already inside us. Campen said, nobody wants plastic in the brain, but it's there. It's an invisible threat. It penetrates us through food, water, air, and scientists are just beginning to understand how far it will go. The next step is to figure out how it gets there and whether it can be expelled. It's a race against time, and the stakes are our health. This is the kind of day we have today, friends. From snowstorms to blooming gardens, from tragedies to rescue missions. If you liked it, like, subscribe, and click the bell. There are even more stories ahead. See you in the next video.